Medical on Today, supported by Hidden Hearing, championing businesses to train in dementia-friendly care.
Welcome back. Now ahead of Alzheimer's Tea Day this Thursday, we are shining a light on dementia in Ireland and how individuals and communities can help.
Two people who know all about the difference a welcoming and inclusive community can make are neuroscientist Sabina Brennan and advocate Kevin Quaid. You're both very welcome to the show.
Good to have you guys.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
So you're both involved in this HSE campaign, Understand Together, which is advocating for more community awareness around dementia. Kevin, you've got some personal experience with dementia. Would you like to tell us about that?
I have. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's 10 years ago, and about 7 years ago, it gets emotional at times with Lewy body dementia. And I became a full-time advocate. And I learned down through the years that one of the most important tools you can have in your bag is a good community.
Mm-hmm. And what were the things at that time that, like the symptoms that you had that made you go for the diagnosis?
The big thing was with Lewy body dementia is hallucinations, nightmares, and I mean horrible nightmares, fear, paranoia.
And did they come on all of a sudden, or was it
No. It grew over a bit of time. We were living in Australia, and it came on bit by bit, and I got 5 or 6 pretty severe illnesses over the space of a year and a half. And one doctor there didn't look at why I was in hospital, but what was bringing me there so often. So he said, when you go back to Ireland, will you get yourself out for early onset Alzheimer's? And
were you surprised to hear that?
I was stunned.
Yeah.
But the only thing was, an uncle of mine in America, Dave, had died from Alzheimer's. So that's why I didn't actually ignore it. And I had a lumbar puncture which showed that I had Parkinson's, and about 2 years later I had a DET scan which showed I had Lewy body dementia.
Sabina, for example, I think when people talk about Alzheimer's and dementia, they think of people losing their memory. They don't think of it in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, dementia is just an umbrella term that describes multiple conditions that impact on how your brain functions. So Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia, and but there are Lewy body, as you have, there's frontal lobe dementia, there's a dementia associated with Parkinson's, there's lots of different types of dementia, and it can be a bit confusing also because the word dementia is also used to describe the symptoms that you have. So when it comes to Alzheimer's disease, actually, we now make a distinction between Alzheimer's disease being the pathology in your brain, the plaques and the tangles, and Alzheimer's dementia being the symptoms, which can be memory, concentration,
Do they always come together, or could you have one of those without the other?
You see, this is really what is sort of exciting in terms of what we now know about the factors that contribute to Alzheimer's disease. So it is possible to have the pathology in your brain and not have the symptoms, and for some people. And really what that is, some people are resilient to the disease to the dementia because of their life choices that they've made. So they basically have enough healthy brain to cope with the pathology. Okay. Now, it's not kind of like a get out of jail free card. Ultimately, the disease will take over and you'll manifest symptoms. But if you adopt a brain healthy lifestyle, you can hold on to your functions for longer.
From when? Maybe your 30s, 40s, or from day one?
You know what? From day one, we really should be educating our children to look after. I mean, we teach our children to brush their teeth every single day, and that's a long-term investment so that you can hold on to your teeth till later life. We need to teach children, adults, everyone. It's never too early or too late to start looking after your brain health.
What are those kind of modifiable risk factors that you can teach people to change?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually 12 modifiable risk factors that potentially account for 40% of all cases of Alzheimer's disease.
Right, okay.
Surprisingly, top of the list is hearing loss, midlife hearing loss. Okay. That contributes 8% of that 40%. But then the other things a lot are related to cardiovascular health. So midlife high blood pressure, low levels of physical activity, smoking, those kind of things. But things like depression and social isolation also
and
contribute.
Speaking of social isolation, then Kevin as well, say for example, if you did have a problem with your hearing, like you might take yourself out of a social setting then, which is going to have a knock-on effect. No two ways about it, because the way I was is
I'd be saying, what you said, can you repeat that again? You get embarrassed by saying that. So then I'd work on your facial expressions, and if you were smiling, I'd be smiling with you, not having a clue what you were saying.
You're waiting for the facial signals.
Yes, and then...
I'm sure that's exhausting.
Exhausting. And then if you had a sad story, you have to be kind of more careful.
Yeah.
And I'm not having a clue what you were saying. But you withdraw then from even family dues. I might say to Helena, I won't bother going tonight, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Which makes you socially withdrawn. And the most important thing you can do as a person with dementia is be socially active, socially inclusive, because the community is everything. And like, there's one thing I need to stress. I don't live with Lewy body dementia. I have it.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
My wife lives with it. And that goes for every single carer.
Yeah. And what
Worldwide.
for the people then who, if there's people watching and they have friends or relatives who have dementia, how can people support you? And then also, what advice do you have for people who are living, who have it? So the advice for people living with it and people who have it.
Don't give up.
Right.
Stay active in your community. Don't be afraid of it. You'll go in and you'll get a diagnosis at 11 o'clock. You're still the same person when you come out at half 11. Only the thing that has been keeping you awake at night, the thing that has been tormenting you, now has a name. And if you get a proper diagnosis early enough, you can deal with it. And you can have, there is a good life to be lived there. It's a horrible disease, it's progressive, it's incurable. You can look at all the negative things, but if you look at the positive things, and if you get your community involved, it makes such a difference to you, to your carer. Like, I'm a Limerickman, as I told you, living in Kanturk, and there's great people in Kanturk, but...
There's a Limerickman, what's that like? Is it even safe these days?
Not
Says the
quite,
Kerryman.
but there's wonderful people there. But when I'm in Kanturk, and when I go for a pint, or when I go for a cup of coffee or whatever, Helene is getting a break from me. And the people in Kanturk become my carers involuntary. And the amount of times people have said to me there, you know, you don't look all right or you're okay, because in fairness I'm a fine looking fella, you know, this might look bad. But it's that kind of community, and we are working so hard to make every town and eventually village in Ireland dementia
friendly. And for business owners to be aware that, like...
It's so important, Sabina, isn't it?
And I think what's important, what you've said is just so enlightening, you know, to hear it from you. But I think it's really important to educate yourself about the disease so that you can then forget about it. And so you can then actually interact with the person, because the person is not their disease, and I think that's important. I think we need to talk more openly about it, because and this is where communities can help, and people in workplaces and places like Hidden Hearing are teaching their staff how to interact with people with dementia, because I think people are afraid. You know, we've had great crack out there outside, having loads of laughs and telling stories, but people who have never encountered someone with dementia tend to sort of step back, and we just, you know, that will help to address the stigma if we have sort of more community support, and nothing about me without me. I think that's just really important, that very important. People are included.
When I launched my first book, do you know what I did? I got the biggest pub I could find in Kanturk. I stood up on stage and I said, I'm Kevin Quaid, I'm a Limerick man, and I have dementia. And for a while, it took the community by surprise that how come this fella is able to talk and walk and sounds everything perfect. But now, they see me as Kevin Quaid.
Lovely stuff. And Kevin Quaid, you owe me a pint, by the way.
You owe me one.
No, you owe me one. We've discussed this the last time.
We'll buy one each, so.
We will. Lovely stuff. Sabina and Kevin, thank you both very much for coming on the show. Again, we haven't seen you in a couple of years, Kevin. And of course, we're going to put all those pieces up on our Facebook page as well, all that information on Instagram and on Facebook at RTE Today.
And there's also more information on the campaign Understand Together on hse.ie.
On Today, supported by Hidden Hearing, championing businesses to train in dementia-friendly care.